In this painting, I've quickly established the composition. Foreground rocks, a large rocky cliff in the midsection, a smaller land mass much closer to the horizon. Now I'm ready to add some much needed detail. First, the mast for a sailboat. It's important that you get the drawing right on these sails. I'm putting the shadow area in first, just a few strokes, and then a dash of sunlight. You can see how it's coming to life already. Now, to create a sense of distance, I'm going to add a small sailboat up against that further landmass. More detail in the foreground boat. And just like that, the painting suddenly has a subject. I want to lighten up that background. It's a little bit too dark, and I also want to incorporate that new little sailboat into the painting. Now let's bring this cliff forward by adding some highlights. Do this judiciously. Too many and it looks spotty. And now go right into the grassland at the top of the cliff and add the light bouncing off that green. Add some lights into the green on the headland. See how this is coming alive? Now it's time to go into the water. As I start that, I realize that my horizon line is too high. Look what a difference it makes when I bring it down just a half an inch. Blending it in. Blending, working wet and wet. Back into the water. Let's bring some of that lightness down. We want that horizon line to go back, and to do that we need to make it lighter. I also want to start to create some excitement in the mid-ground water. This is a great time to introduce some wonderful turquoise, purples, lavender. Use your brush to carve around those rocks. Reshape them as you bring light into the water. Every brush stroke counts. Notice I'm going up and down and across. I want movement. As I get closer into the foreground, I'm adding some warmth. At this point, you're able to see a little bit of the sand underneath the water. Continuing to sculpt and lighten. I'm happy with that. Back on the horizon line, more light. See how we're now getting a reflection of both the clouds in the sky and that mass of land. This is all done wet and wet so that you can move the paint. When you're applying it, do it gently. You don't want to take up the paint that's underneath. Most important thing about working wet and wet is to gently apply the second layer. Now some real lights. A dash of beautiful color in there. That gives movement. Movement to the water. Bring it right down into the foreground. Still working wet and wet. Every brush stroke counts. Think about it before you put your brush onto the canvas. See how much more colorful it is in the foreground? That's where the action is in this painting, in the water. Now I think I need to go back into the sky. I've added so much interest to the water, the sky is just dull. So here I'm adding a mixture of permanent rose, a little tiny bit of cobalt blue, some yellow ochre, and white. This gives you a great cloud color. Now adding more masses of clouds, blending them. Blending it all in. Adding patches of light breaking through. Look at all that movement that wasn't there before. I'm getting rid of the brush strokes I don't need. Notice my brush moves up, down, all around, different directions. This gives a sense of wind and changing weather. A few more touches of light. Gives that layered look of clouds over clouds over clouds, which we see so often on the coast here. Just a few little pieces of light. Some of these will be lost. I'll keep some of them. There's the reflection of the sails. Remember, everything is moving in this painting. This is not a still reflection. I love that pink. That is really working. Back into the foreground. Let's put a little bit of a rippling reflection of the rocks. It's always good to add a little bit of detail in your foreground. Everything is composed to bring your eye up into the sailboat. From the sailboat to the secondary sailboat. From that sailboat to the horizon line. Look at that. A dash of color, dash of light. Now it's time to finish up with some detail work. I decide I need sailboats on the horizon. Then I decide I don't need sailboats on the horizon. Easy to remove. A few more dashes of light. Everything's taking to the sailboat. Getting rid of any hard edges that I don't want to detract from the overall composition. So it's important to glaze over those hard edges, blend them in. A few more tiny little touches of light brings that little bit of forest forward. What a difference. There we are, the beginning, and here we are. So much more light, life, color. I've really enjoyed painting with you. Thanks so much for visiting my studio.